Hi, and welcome to Eating Plebeian. Today we are making the classic chicken stew. And I happen to have from the other night about a pound and a half of chicken left over from a roast I did. Maybe you've even seen that video. Hint, hint. Kind of look up there, whichever side, for the card, and you can pick that one up. But I have plenty of this roast chicken left, as I said, and what we're going to be doing is using this in again that classic stew style. So let me begin with the ingredients, pretty much as always. Now you've already seen the chicken here, but I've also got a small onion, 2 stalks of celery chopped up, 2 carrots. Those are all ready and prepped to go. I didn't figure that anyone here wanted to sit for half an hour and watch me chop stuff. I figure you know how to do that. I've got about a half a pound of potatoes. It's about 2 small to medium potatoes, chopped up roughly. 4 tablespoons of butter. I have a teaspoon each of rosemary and thyme, 2 tablespoons of flour, that's all-purpose variety, 2 to 4 cloves of garlic, those are minced up, 3 bay leaves, 2 to 3 tablespoons of fresh chopped parsley. I've got 4 ounces of mushrooms. I'm just going to be throwing those in whole because, why not? Salt, pepper over here, and lastly, we've got 4 cups of chicken broth. And so we're going to be using the chicken broth as the main base. So we are ready to go here, and we're going to start off with moving things out of the way and bringing out my medium-large Dutch oven. And the Dutch oven is going to be great for not having any hot spots and not going to be, burn things or whatever. It's all heat control. So we're going to get set up for this. I'm going to start the heat on it, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, so I've had my Dutch oven under medium heat now for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to start off using that 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm just going to toss it right into the mix. We want to get that melted in. Obviously, chunks of butter is not something that you typically would see in a stew. That's why they're all melted, because it's hot. Yes, that was a bad attempt at a joke. So this isn't going to take long. But again, one of the things that is important with cooking, especially in a bad economy, is extending your food dollar and having useful options for leftovers, especially things like chicken. Protein is expensive, okay? It just is. And so wherever we can reuse that and get everyone on board with whatever it is that you're making, then fantastic. So I'm going to put my vegetation in here, my mirepoix, and we're going to give this a minute to settle, and we'll coat it all with the butter. We'll be following up with these vegetables with the garlic here in a couple of minutes. Obviously, I like to wait. If you've ever watched my show before here, I like to wait on the garlic a little bit, because burnt garlic, once you burn garlic, that's it. Dish is gone. Chuck it. Go to Pizza Hut. Not really, but I actually was going through my own videos, and I do have to wonder whether or not you actually like to see the preparation stages that I go through to make things every day. I do a lot of, actually all of the chopping and slicing and prepping and all the rest of that. If that's something that you're actually interested in seeing, to see how I do it, please do me a favor, leave a message down in the comments. And I would be happy to do that if there is any sort of demand at all for that sort of thing. I very often use olive oil. I wanted butter this time. Not that the olive oil wouldn't work. It absolutely would. But I'm going to be using a couple of tablespoons of flour for a mild thickener for the stew. And I think it just works better with butter than the oil. And as the olive oil that I use usually is also a refined or filtered olive oil. Yes, you can saute and cook and things like that with it. so it won't burn like a extra virgin olive oil would. As much as I love extra virgin olive oil, it's only good for salads and dipping. Well, maybe a few other things, but nothing that involves much heat. So anytime that you see me stirring and I'm using olive oil, on the stove, it's usually the refined stuff. So you got to kind of keep two types. So I think I'm in here far enough that I can put in that garlic. This is not going to be a complicated recipe. We only want to get this garlic fragrant. You'll be able to start smelling it in about 30, 60 seconds, something like that. And then we know we are going to be able to move on at that point. My poor wife has to suffer along every now and again when my recipes and my filming these videos run late, and she ends up eating at like 8 o'clock at night. I told her absolutely I would not do that for her this evening, and this one won't take long at all. So I have this in here. If I had actually made chicken that was fresh and made it in with this batch, then I would be going through and deglazing a little bit with some of the chicken breast or even some white wine. But that's not in here, so I'm not going to have to worry about that step. So I think we're at the point where I'm going to go ahead and add in the flour. And I want to get this in and mixed around really well because we don't want any clumps. It'll thicken up quite a bit and take up all of the extra liquid butter down there at the bottom. But don't worry, it's not going to harm your mirepoix and the garlic at all. So we're just going to give this an extra couple of seconds so we can cook this flour mixture. This roux is basically what it is. And by cooking it just for a little while longer, it gets rid of that floury, mealy texture that it can have. So give us just another minute or two and we'll be right back. So it's been about 1 or 2 minutes. That's all we really wanted to do for this roux. You can just start smelling the nuttiness of the flour on the inside. I'm gonna add in my rosemary, my thyme, and I think even my bay leaves. I'll just throw those in. And I'm gonna follow it with the chicken. I'm gonna toss the chicken in with everything that we've already put in here just to get it coated up, and then we'll follow it along with that chicken broth. Now I want the broth that we create to meld a bit before we add in the potatoes and the mushrooms. So those will be coming in maybe a few minutes after we get a simmer established, and then we can toss those. So there we are, and the chicken broth, the 4 cups. That'll take a couple of minutes to reestablish, as I said. You get this stirred in. Looks nice. And I'm also going to put in, at this point, about a teaspoon of salt. If you're worried about the salt, start at a half and then taste it. Because once it goes in, it ain't coming out again. That's what salt does. So if it's too much, always go at a half or 2/3, and then find out what it takes. I'm putting in about a half a teaspoon of pepper here. Okay, so that's in, and let me get this stirred in. And I'm making a little gloopy mess here off to the side of my stove. Hate when I do that. The flour that we put in is not going to be effective in thickening anything until we at least reach a simmer. A simmer or a boil is needed for a roux to begin its thickening. So now that I'm wandering around everywhere looking for a towel, there we go. We're going to get that cleaned off. And I'm also going to drain my potatoes. It's not going to be that long, so I can go ahead and do this now. I hate it when my potatoes turn gray. It's almost like a fear that I have. So those, the mushrooms, the parsley, we still have that outstanding. But as soon as we get this back up to heat, I think, excuse me, you've heard me talk about Texas allergies. It's still a thing. But as soon as this comes back up to heat, we'll be ready to move on. So, catch you in a few. Well, it's been about 5 minutes. We finally got our simmer back. We're starting to thicken slightly. I'm hoping that we'll get just a little bit more out of this with the starch from the potatoes, although I am going to not hold out on the possibility of having to add just a little bit of extra bit of flour or a bit of roux, but I think it's going to be okay. So those are in. In go my mushrooms. Yes, I'm using them whole. I think it's more rustic that way. And so now we've got about a 20-25 minute wait until the potatoes have softened up and are ready to eat. So we're going to continue watching this just for a bit, and we're on the one cruise, I guess, for this cook. So give it 25-30 minutes, and we'll be seeing you then. So as I was watching this bubble and start to get everything softened up in the pot, I kind of figured that yes, I could use actually a little bit more of the thickener. So I figured this would be a good time to go ahead and just make a quick skillet roux. So I'm going to place this here, and I'm going to warm this thing up over medium-low heat and add an additional 3 tablespoons of butter into that mix. So I'm going to get this rolling, and it really shouldn't take that long. We're only going to cook it for a minute or two, but just like in here, we wanted to get the flour that's in the roux cooked. So that just takes care, again, of that mealy sort of taste that raw flour can give you. So as soon as this comes up to heat, I'll be adding in the same amount of tablespoons of the flour to it. And so that is just off to my side here. So let's get this going. In as much as this has to cook, I'm talking about the stew itself now, for about 20, 25, 30 minutes before it's ready to go. The recipe as a whole really is good for a weeknight meal. If you've got, the chicken and everything just kind of around, then, why not use it and get away from the burgers, if you know what I mean. Cut down on the expenses and, try to get away from those restaurant and takeout bills that just really, really high these days. If you would do me a favor and hit the like and the subscribe buttons for me, if you'll take a time out to do that while we're waiting for that to fizz. It really helps me in getting over top of those YouTube hurdles that they like to do before they start recommending your stuff out. I've got over 50 recipes at this point at the date of filming on eatingplebeian.com, or you can visit those same ones over at youtube.com/@eatingplebeian. And so we are now fizzing. I am going to put my extra flour into the mix, and we're just going to stir this around a bit and get it all combined. Just like the Also, here in the main Dutch oven, you can start smelling the nutty flavor of cooking roux. We'll start to get that here as well. We're just going to move this around, smash it up if you want to. And it will start to brown just a little bit once it starts absorbing all the heat. And this paste actually does really well. There are other types of thickeners out there that you can use. There's cornstarch, there's I think arrowroot, there's the packet thickener. This is by far and away the best thickener that you can actually have. So I recommend it highly if you're making soups, stews, gumbo. Use a flour roux. So we are almost ready here with this. And we're going to toss it. I'm going to use about 2/3 of this. Into the Dutch oven. I'm going to move my camera aim here for a second. I hope you don't mind. There we are. I'm going to use about 2/3, and if I need to, I'll put the rest in. And because this is already simmering pretty well, it's thickening almost immediately. And you can tell just by looking at it that it's gone from soup to stew pretty quick. Got a little bit on the bottom side of my spatula here. Make sure to get that turned in and under. That is some good looking stew. Since I happen to be here, even though that 25 minutes isn't quite up, I'm going to grab a fork and then just going to see whether or not these potatoes have softened. And you know what? They have. That's great. I am going to give them just another minute or so. And then I'm going to put in my parsley. Don't want to forget that. Just for some nice green. It makes everything look nice and taste nice. Parsley's great stuff. I know some people use cilantro, but we can't have cilantro in our house. There are people here that taste soap, unfortunately. They've been cursed. So if you ever wonder why I use so much parsley and not cilantro, that's why. So I've got this on dead low now, but it's on a very, very large burner. I am going to go ahead and set up for plating. I'll be back in just a minute. And after a few minutes, we are so back. So I am looking at this stew and I'm thinking, this is some amazing stuff. So I'm just going to portion it out. I am serving this with biscuits. I figured that'd be the classic way to do it. And I want a mushroom on there. There we go. So that's what we've got. I need to clean that off a little bit. Such presentation skills. Oh man, having stuff dappled on the rim. There we go. Serve it with some bread or a biscuit, and we are ready to go. Thanks very much for joining us here at Eating Plebeian. You know, I've so much enjoyed doing these comfort food and basic and intermediate recipes and skills videos. I hope you'll continue to join with me when I get these out. I do 2 to 4 a week. But anyways, thanks very much, and I will catch you next time.